Now, if it's Thursday, then it's Fishin and Hunting today. I'm your studio producer, Sid Davis, and I have none other than the humble honor and pleasure of introducing one of the Hall of Famers in the radio game today. That'd be none other than Mr. Jerry Cripp, alongside Mr. Kevin Kell, Hatcheries administrator for the great state of Ohio. How are you guys doing today?
Good, Sydney. Kevin, how are you? Kevin, are you there?
I am. Can you hear me?
There we got you. How are you, sir? How are you doing? Kevin, can you hear me now?
Yes, I can.
There you go. How are you, sir?
Doing great for the beautiful summer.
Well, I was just getting ready to say, here we are, and this is really for July 1st. It's a pretty nice evening here, isn't it? I mean, 70 degrees? Well, mid-70s or so. It's not 90, and the only problem I have is July 1st. You know what that means? 4th of July gets here. Before you know it, it's snowing here in Ohio. Time's flying, bud.
It is flying.
I mean, I can't believe it. I'm trying to figure out, did we have Memorial Day, or did we just skip that this year?
I think we skipped the latter part of spring and went right into mid.
I think you may be right. My God, unbelievable. Time does fly. I guess you know the old song, time marches on. No, go ahead. In fact, it's not marching, it's running on, I think would be a better way of putting it. But here we are into July, and people are well underway. And I've always said we fish year-round here in Ohio. You just adapt to weather conditions, water conditions, and we can fish here in Ohio year-round. I think the only sad part about what we've had for the last couple of years is we really have not had an ice season. And, you know, for some of our ice guys that put a lot of money into that up on Lake Erie, we hope coming up this year, maybe that'll change a little bit, but I'll tell you, I don't know. You know, you really can't count on getting hard water anymore at a certain time of year, can you, Kevin?
No, anymore. It's catch as catch can.
Yep. And it just to me, there's just no planning to it at all anymore. You just cannot do it. But here we are in Ohio, and I'll tell you what, I don't think we need to leave the state to enjoy fishing here in this great state of Ohio. We can go from Lake Erie to the Ohio River and all the points and stops in between, all the tributaries, all the rivers, all the creeks, and everything else that are out there. And we can pretty well fish not only year-round, but we can pretty well have a good fishing trip about any day we go, can't we?
Yeah, we can. We've got just a wide variety of opportunities all across the state. Everything from small farm ponds to rivers and streams to medium to bigger reservoirs, and then you get up to the big water, the Ohio River and Lake Erie.
Have you been up to Lake Erie, Kevin, to sample I know you've been to Lake, but have you been up to sample that largemouth fishery up there in the Western Basin? Have you tried that?
I have not tried that, but I have tried smallmouth bass fishing here in the Central Basin, and found some largemouth around the harbor lake walls here too. So it's a phenomenon all across the Lake Erie shoreline.
I'm telling you what, this is unbelievable with that largemouth bite up in the Western Basin. I mean, and these are not little guys. These are 3-pound fish, 4-pound plus fish. Gorgeous largemouth. And this here, you know, it's world-class walleye. Everybody knows that. But my goodness, is this going to become world-class largemouth?
The thing you have to consider there, the growth rate of the large bass, and the fact that Lake Erie can be relatively cool during the fall and winter, that the fish are going to shut down a little bit earlier than southern reservoirs or farm ponds, and they're going to be later to get going in spring. So maybe their 7-pound largemouth is going to be at sort of the upper end of the range. But,
okay.
We've seen some 5 and 5-plus pounders caught out of marinas and harbors, so they're definitely around.
Do you attribute this to the clarity now that we see up there, bringing back aquatic growth, different grasses and that type of thing that we haven't seen for a while, making this just unbelievable area now for largemouth, the type of things that they like. Smallies have always liked Lake Erie. But do you feel that that's a big factor? Is that clarity, bringing back these aquatic growths like it is?
Yeah, the smallmouth generally prefer more gravelly, older type habitat, and we're seeing in the shallow sink areas more vegetation, and that gives some of those little tiny bass a chance to survive. Once they kick in and stay in those good, clean, weedy habitats, they'll get bigger.
Well, I'll tell you what, we know that there's some 7 pound. That's not a bad largemouth. If that's what we're going to reach at the top end of what we're going to see in the Western Basin, that's a pretty nice top end, that's for sure. And on the smallie side, I know Central is right now. What do you think an average smallie would be coming out of Central, Kevin?
Right now, the average is somewhere in the 3 to 4 pound range.
Whoa!
Haven't had a bunch of good hatches to up through the ranks, so there's a fair bit of older fish hanging around. And the nice thing about fisheries is that a large percentage of our anglers are practicing catch and release. It's not a harvest fishery like we see with walleye and perch and white bass. Those are the fish that are going home, not largemouth and smallmouth.
Thank goodness. We don't need to do that. I agree with that 1,000%. I mean, you know, that, and it's fine. You know, there's a bag limit. If somebody wants to take one home and enjoy it, that's fine. No problem with that. But I think I agree with you. I think 90% plus of people that bass fish, it's all catch and release fish for sure. And I attribute that to the tournaments years ago on television when all of that started, and when people saw them catch and releasing these bass, they figured, we're going to do that too, and that played a big part in catch and release phenom that's going on with people with bass. I really believe that.
Yeah, and the other thing that's been happening recently is both in the West and Central Basin, with the increase in the walleye population, there's a lot of those harvestable size fish near shore. So it's relatively easy to go out if you want to fish for smallmouth first and then go get some walleye to harvest, or vice versa. There are anglers choose to do that.
Good point. And these turtle guys now, with the walleye being so good, I mean, my goodness, they're doing maybe if they want 2 trips a day, because they're back in with the morning run and they're able to do another run. So we could throw in a little bit of bass, and as we get to the fall, everybody likes to catch a perch or two, you know, up on Lake Erie. So there's many, many varieties for sure to do up there. No question about that. Kevin, before we get into the hatcheries and what we raise here in Ohio and what we stock, etc., I want to ask you about the lake trout. That was introduced, into the Central Basin, a couple of years ago?
Correct. It was probably almost 6 years ago now.
Okay.
We started through the Lake Erie Committee's Cold Water Task Group with the Great Lakes Fishery Commission, an interagency project to move lake trout stocking out of the eastern basin and into the central and western basin, because we had some historical data that showed that there were native stocks that would spawn on reefs in the central basin, as far west as the Kelly Island Shoals area, just east of the islands. So we put some in at Fairport, and we put some in at Catawba, and all of those fish had an adipose fin flap. That's that little fin that's right behind the dorsal on trout. It's just a little fleshy fin. So we clipped that off, and then we put a tag in the fish's snout. So we could go back and look at those tagged fish and see where and when they were stocked. And we've gotten some of the fish that were stocked from both Catawba and Fairport. We've seen them as fish that are, 5 years old, starting to recruit into the fishery and being caught by anglers. So We did not see as many from the Catawba stockings
Mm-hmm.
as we did from the Fairport stockings. So for right now, we're going to send those stockings out west and just put all of the fish in at Fairport that are coming from the federal hatchery in Lamar, Pennsylvania, the Allegheny National Fish Hatchery.
I think it's a neat program. I didn't know it was going on for 6 years, to be honest with you. If I had to guess, I just said a couple, 3 years, and that's fantastic. So these fish, do you feel now that with the Western Basin, with them in the Western Basin, that's going to be a cold enough summertime area for them to survive okay?
What we typically see with lake trout, just like our steelhead, they're going to make a break for the far eastern part of the Central Basin, mm-hmm. or make the jump over the Pennsylvania Ridge and go into the Eastern Basin where it's deeper and a lot colder.
Mm-hmm.
And we've seen some of those tagged fish from Fairport show up in nets in Pennsylvania and New York. So we know that they've made that jump into the Eastern Basin and may have been on their way back toward them when they were caught. But certainly we're hearing from anglers that in October, November, December, they're seeing lake trout in some of the Central Basin harbors and along breakwalls at Conneaut and Geneva, all the way over past Cleveland.
Interesting.
And we'll continue to monitor that in the future.
Is that a fish now that people, with it being a program that's been underway for 6 years, is that a fish now that people are actually targeting on going on a lake trout fishing trip?
They could, particularly if they're over in the far eastern part of the Central or East Basins. I know that Pennsylvania does have a little bit of a fall fishery for them, but most of our guys are targeting steelhead and catching the lake trout at the same time.
Okay. I know we've got world-class steely fishing. We'll mention that before we let you go this evening, too, because I'll tell you, that's, another, and people that steelhead fish and fish even, I would think, maybe not so much on a panfish fisherman or someone like that, but people that are fishing for trout, maybe in the Mad River here in this area or something like that, they're aware of how phenomenal our steelhead program here in Ohio is. But the general fishing public, I think they need to learn about how exciting a fishery this is, and we'll mention that too. Are you having any concern about perch in the Central and Western Basin? We're hearing a little bit. I know they lowered the bag limit in the Central there. Are you having any concern at all with perch up on the Big Lake?
We do, particularly in the area from Huron to Fairport Harbor. That's Unit 2, the western part of the Central Basin. We reduced the bag limit to 10 for this year, starting the 1st of May. That's just based on the population level at zone. We haven't had any appreciable year classes, no really decent hatches for, probably 5 or 6 years at least. If you go that long with 4 year classes, it's just, you're just going to see the population kind of fall out from under you. You really need that recruitment to bring new fish into the ranks to be able to have a fishable population. In the Western Basin, we've had better reproduction. The best in Ohio waters, the West is the best. But the East Central has been okay, but we've a couple year classes there, but certainly not as good as the West. So we continue to have our research stations monitor those fish populations, and we monitor the fisheries as well, both sport and commercial. We really don't have much of a fishery here in the Central Basin anymore. It's primarily in the West. So that's one of the things we'll continue to monitor, and hopefully we'll get some year classes to bring the ranks back up. Then we can manage correctly and deal with quotas, on into the future. But that 10 bag in the West Central is only because we haven't had good hatches for quite a long time period.
Is there any thought or concern that maybe because of the walleye population in the lake being what it is, their perch are having to compete with the walleye for food? I know we've got a great forage fish base up there too, but maybe they're having to compete, and for that fact, they're just not having the kind of hatches that you want to see.
Yeah, it seems like, if anything, yellow perch, there may be a bottleneck with plankton.
Okay.
There's a bunch of spiny water fleas out there. Maybe they've displaced some of the other plankton. We've got our research looking at that. Certainly here in the Central Basin, we've got hypoxia issues, areas where there's no dissolved oxygen, and we're looking at how that's affecting the yellow perch population and their distribution as well.
Is Canada, I know, Kevin, you can talk with Canada a lot because we share the lake with them. Is there concern with perch with them too, and with the commercial fishing quotas that they've got?
Oh, absolutely. That same area, the West Central Basin, their quotas are very restricted this year. And certainly their other quotas are adjusted based on what the population trends are. The trends in the East Central Basin are down. Their quotas are down. And certainly in the West, we've kind of just maintained quotas based on where the population trajectory is for this next year.
Well, there's nobody that don't like a little bit of perch on a dinner plate with some coleslaw and a hush puppy and a little cornbread and a cold beer. So we hope that fish survives. Okay.
Yep. Well, we're seeing a lot of the two walleye.
I know. Yeah, walleye is just as good. I agree with you. There's no cool walleye, crappie, that's great table there, no question about it. Sydney, let's go ahead and take our quick little break. We'll come back on the other side, and we'll get into the hatcheries and the 40 million plus fish here in Ohio that we grow each year with Kevin. It's the Fishin and Huntin today. We'll have this quick break. We'll come back on the other side. We'll have more with Kevin Kale right after this.
And this is your fishing and hunting update. I like to touch on the weather today. If you're in the Ohio region, you might be sweating a little bit. 70 degrees, mid 70s to be exact. Then from our town to your town and then around the world, if we check into that, start off on the East Coast, 73 degrees. If we go over to London, our friends in London, it's going to be 61 degrees. Also, if you want to go down, we can look at Halifax, 70 degrees in Halifax. Ottawa, they're in their 70s as well. If we go to Cuba, Havana to be exact, 77 degrees. Hong Kong is 86 degrees. Istanbul, Turkey, 77 degrees as well. Israel, 77 degrees as well. Need I say more? I guess it's pretty much 70s to 80s all around the world at this point. Well, actually, I'll take that back. You go to Belgrade, you're in the 68. And touching just on that, a sports update for everyone. We're getting close to the finals, towards the end of the NBA Finals to be exact. The Phoenix Suns have actually clinched their series yesterday evening. They beat the Clippers 103. Of course, they lost 130. Suns Game 6, that was yesterday's final. 130 to 103. Chris Paul had 41 points, and I think it might have been probably his best game of his career. With all that being said, now today's game already started about 6 minutes ago, around 8:30. That's game 5 today. The series is tied 2-2. You have the Atlanta Hawks going against a strong opponent in the Milwaukee Bucks. Now, the 62% favorite, if you're in the stakes and betting, would be the Bucks, the 3 seed. With all that being said, this is your fishing and hunting update. Sid Davis reporting. And back to you guys.
Thanks, Sidney, for the update. Worldwide, we podcast. Worldwide with Fishing and Hunting today. We do a little bit of worldwide weather, that's for sure. NBA, a lot of people interested in the NBA and the NBA Finals for sure. Next week will be the Finals week, by the way. It'll be Milwaukee, probably, I would say, against the Phoenix Suns. But we'll see how that goes. And like Sidney said, that game will be underway here in a couple minutes. Want to mention real quick, Federal Premium. If you're looking for ammo, I'm telling you, I don't know what really is going on with the ammo shortages that we continue to see. And as we get closer to hunting seasons, I mean, our September 1st seasons are not all that far off. And we right now recommend always to people the off months, which are June, July, and August, to be on the range. Getting ready for our upcoming hunting season, so trap, skeet, sporting clays, etc. But I'll tell you, the clubs probably have not heard. We need to get an update from some of the gun clubs to see how they're doing as far as with people coming out to shoot, because they may be having a problem with ammo. And I'm assuming, I don't know, I don't reload right now. Used to when I was shooting a lot more, but don't now. But I would be thinking we're going to be seeing these shortages in our reloading components too. So we'll have to watch for that. But if you see ammo that you need, if there's no limit on the amount that you can buy, it's probably not a bad idea to buy a little ahead. And it is into the shotgun gauges and shotgun ammo too, depending on what type, from waterfowl to dove loads, upland loads, etc. So if you see it, you best get it. Federal Premium, by far the best ammo. Excuse me, they got Prairie Storm for our upland seasons with pheasant. Our waterfowl loads too, Black Cloud's a great lineup too there, and then target loads with the gold medal lineup, and all through their target lineup, they've got great ammo for you too. Federal Premium, we always say, shoot often, shoot lots, enjoy it, get out and enjoy the range, and when you see that ammo, go ahead and get it. Back with Kevin Kale. Kevin's the Hatcheries Administrator here for the state of Ohio, and I'll tell you what, your hatchery program, my friend, you've got people from other divisions of wildlife around the country come to see what we do here in Ohio, because we know how to, as the cable guy would say, get her done. We do pretty good, don't we?
Yeah, we do. Even in spite of a pandemic last year, we met requests and were able to stock almost 46 million fish. Wow. Is that
Kevin, do you, with your other people, with other divisions around the country, do you guys compare the number of fish that you actually release? Like, we're 46 million. Do you say, okay, Indiana, you did whatever, et cetera, et cetera? Do you guys compare that at all?
We do, but it's not so much a measuring contest.
Okay.
We get together and talk. We troubleshoot what worked, what didn't work. Particularly along Great Lakes, we've got a Great Lakes Fish Health Committee that we all get together and try and make sure that the fish that we're raising and stocking are healthy. Fish that we're seeing out in the wild are healthy. So we trade information, trade technique. We're all in it together because we're all in the opportunity providing business. And there are times where we do trade fish back and forth. With our steelhead program, we get eggs from Wisconsin and Michigan in normal years. Because of COVID issues, we haven't been able to do that. The production's been changed the last couple years because our partners haven't been able to get eggs like they normally would. But we also work with federal fish hatcheries in other states. We trade fish from time to time when we're short one thing and have surpluses of others. So it's all good. It's all about providing opportunities for our anglers all across the region.
How old is our hatchery program here in Ohio?
Oh, Lord. If you really want to some of the original hatcheries, they were in the late 1800s.
Wow.
Our London hatchery is our oldest, and it was founded back in the 1890s. But the majority of our hatcheries really were established in the 1930s during the WPA time period.
Wow. And, when you hear that number, I mean, you're here, 46 million fish. People out there thinking, my God, how do you feed them all? It's really, it's not a really all totally in-house because, I mean, you're not raising your own food, first of all. There's a big food bill to raise 46 million fish, isn't there?
Yeah, there is. We feed a lot of minnows to some fish like our muskies and our channel cats, but a lot of the fish pelleted feed. So we have a state contract that allows us to buy from a vendor all the different feed sizes we need. And most of our hatcheries run, the science behind it is, you're feeding based on the length of the fish and the size of the fish, and then you're feeding rations from a certain percentage of their body weight, 2, 3, 4% of their body weight per day.
Wow. Well, let's run through a few what we do. We talked about the lake trout program here in Ohio, but let's mention, I think, we'll save the steely for last because the fall bite will be coming up here before we know it, so we'll save the steely for the end of our little list here and talk about him then. But let's touch a bit on our muskie program here in Ohio. I look at Caesar's, a muskie program. I see Leesville has probably been around, I guess, maybe one of the longer ones that we saw muskie in, but this muskie program we've got here in 5 with Caesar's Creek, I think we're in 15 years maybe. And there's 50-inch muskie in Caesar's Creek, Kevin. That fishery there, that's a target muskie fishery now for sure. But tell us a little about our muskie program here in Ohio. How long we've been doing it, and what was your thought to maybe stock muskie in Ohio, because it's been a success?
Yeah, we've been in it for some time. In the 1980s, we kind of locked in at stocking pure strain muskies opposed to tiger muskies. Mm-hmm. And then it was all about dialing in the correct size of stocking. And right now, we get all of our eggs from Leesville Lake. So they're an Ohio strain muskie. They're grown out at our London and Kincaid hatcheries. And we've got 9 different lakes that we stock muskies in. And we stock them at the rate of 1 per acre. Mm-hmm. And we stock them in the fall when they get to be about 10 to 11 inches long.
Better survival at that length, isn't there?
Yeah, we get them that long so that they can survive other muskies and bass and whatever else might eat smaller fish. But certainly this program has gone a long way at providing trophy muskie opportunities in these lakes. And you mentioned Caesar Creek. The other one that'll be coming on here in the next few years is going to be C.J. Brown Reservoir.
Yep. Moved that program from East Fork up there to C.J., and I hear, Justin Wallers was telling me before he transferred, he's going back east now, but he was saying that from what they're seeing so far with that program at CJ, Kevin, it's looking pretty good, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
I think CJ will set up nice for that program. I really, really do. I just hope, because I really still think, you had that program at East Fork for 10 years plus before you moved it. I still think there were more muskie caught at East Fork than we heard about, for the simple reason people had a good thing going. They didn't want to let anybody know what they had going on for catching muskie.
And, it's a very expensive program for us because we feed them minnows from the time they're ready to eat. They start eating carp fry, and then they eat fathead minnows of increasing size, and then they're finished off on gold shiners. So it's costing us somewhere at almost close to $20 per fish stock.
Oh, I don't doubt it. I don't doubt it. Let me ask you this: when you're doing that 1 per acre with those advanced fingerlings, or that you call them, I mean, they're 10, 11-inch fish. You know, some people don't catch fish that big. What is the success ratio? Say, for example, on a 2,000-acre lake, you put 2,000 in. What do you guys expect to survive out of that?
If we get anywhere close to 10%, then we're doing real well.
That's pretty good, 10. That's pretty good. That's 200 fish, isn't it?
Yeah. And, you know, you mentioned East Fork. One of the things we look at with a program like this is angler reports of catches. So we do creel surveys on these lakes. We also have the muskie angler log, where we want our muskie anglers to report catches and let us know where they're fishing and how long they're fishing, you know, to look at success rates. And, you know, the lack of catch reports out of East Fork was one of the determining factors.
Well, sure it was.
And we, you know, the other 8 reservoirs, you know, Leesville and Clear Fork and Salt Fork, Piedmont and Milton, West Branch, and Elm Creek, they're all established systems, and we know things are working real well in those. So it'll be interesting to see how CJ graduates into the fishery here.
Oh, there's lots of people watching that program for sure. They want to see it because it becomes, what is it, 3rd year now already?
Yep.
But people want to see that become a success. There's no question about that. And why you can't, I don't understand, and it was at the point with the muskie log too, even if you didn't catch a fish, if you were going on a muskie trip, they wanted you to say, I went on a muskie trip and I caught 0, because that even helps. People want to know that. You guys need that as part of your article that you've got.
It's a good piece of information to us. You know, anglers like to brag about their catches, but we like to know that whether or not they're having problems catching fish too.
Sure, because it goes into, okay, do we want to do this or do we want to do that with the program that we may have at whatever lake we may have that program. So it's all something they need to do, that for sure. You can't make it mandatory, I realize that. I mean, but it would be nice if you could. Maybe would be, you know, a way of putting it. And I'm a big fan of your creel survey kits too. I've run into them a few times, and I think that again is good info that really, really helps you a lot, doesn't it?
Yes, it does.
And they just very simple questions that they ask, and important questions too. And they're not trying to find out that you've got a hot spot there and tell everybody else where to come and fish. It's not quite what they do, but that's a good thing to do too. So where do you talk to? Now I've seen that. Here's another thing too that I think makes our muskie here in Ohio interesting to people. We don't have a closed season on them. You look at Canada for sure, but our northern states, they've all got closed seasons on their muskie up there. And I think that's a plus too, because we can fish here, like we said earlier, year-round. You adapt. And this is a great fish to be able to chase in the fall and in the spring. It's a great time to fish for them, isn't it?
Absolutely. There's, you know, the good muskie anglers are going to be able to catch fish at all times during the year.
Absolutely. And the ones that aren't even the people that aren't even muskie fishing, that are out throwing that spinnerbait for a bass in the springtime and get a muskie on there, they best have a change of pants, and probably underwear wouldn't help, you think?
It's quite the surprise, and usually they're gear
Oh, yes. Man, one thing, too, we mentioned about catch and release with bass. This is another catch and release fish for sure. Two in the boat, the cradle net's nice. What are your thoughts on that cradle net, Kevin? Do you have any pros or cons about that thing?
I really don't. It's all about releasing the fish as quick and as least amount of stress as possible.
Well, I think sometimes people think this is a big fish. We can get it out, hold it up, do all kinds of pictures, do this, do that, and that don't work. That fish needs to be best idea is not even taking them out of the water, if that's a possibility. If you want to get a quick measurement, try and do it. If you've got someone else in the boat, you could pretty well get that accomplished fairly quickly and get that fish back. And if you're going to have it mounted, do the fiberglass mount. Let that fish swim. Do the fiberglass mount. They last forever. There's no maintenance, and it really turns out nice, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. And the other thing is, particularly in the summer, during warmer water conditions, you really got to handle those fish carefully, or you're going to have them more on your hands.
Good point. And if it dies, you've got to reduce it to bag. Now, there is a bag of one, but if it dies, that fish has got to go to bag, doesn't it?
That's true.
So you figure out a good muskie recipe, and I suggest if that happens, the best thing to do with them, smoke them. They turn out pretty good smoked. But let me ask you this real quick before we move on to another one about muskie at Alum Creek. This has been a number of years ago. They led the way. I think there were 700 or 800 fish caught. And we probably have talked about this before, but we are a worldwide audience with this thing now, and people have probably never heard about alum. Maybe some of them, people here in this area, they know, but it's a pretty good reservoir here in central Ohio, I guess you would call it. And they had, I think it was 700 or almost 800 muskie caught one year. What is up with alum now? I know Marty's RunQuest, we had Marty on giving us fishing reports. He's retired. I think he did retire, didn't he? I think he's done already or getting ready.
He retired yesterday.
Oh, there you go. So Marty's done. Well, good for him. I hope he enjoys catching a lot of fish. But anyway, he was saying, too, about losing quite a number of muskie, they think, over the dam up there. Are you any concern with that up there?
Right. They, the way they operate dams, particularly our 3 and 4 year old muskies were the ones that were exiting the system.
Mm-hmm.
Some tagging to try and look at that, and we're working with the Corps of Engineers and our stocking program to try and fix that the best we can.
So there's no thoughts about changing the program as far as stocking up there. You're just going to try and figure out how we can slow down the loss of what we're losing.
That's correct. Yeah, for right now.
How is that? Have you fished that up there for muskie at all?
I have.
What do you think? Pretty good?
Yeah, it's been a good. It's a really interesting reservoir because of the deep access to deep water, and there's a lot of points and bars where you get a lot of breaks, the depth. So there are plenty of places to fish for muskie during the late spring and early summer, and then again in the fall.
What I've often recommended to people for muskie fishing, if they hit one of the good chance of catching a muskie on a muskie trip, alum may be a good choice. The fish may not be a monster fish, might be an upper 30, a 38 inch, maybe you get a 40. But would you recommend alum? Do you think that would be good, Kevin, for somebody that you've got a pretty fairly good chance of catching a muskie up there?
Any of our 9 lakes, you've got to, I think, really good.
Good answer.
They're all like my kids. I don't have a favorite.
I like that. That was a stupid question, Crip. You should have never said. Good point. Marty's not going to pick a favorite. Good point. But anyway, yeah, I agree with you, too. That is a good point. Enjoy it wherever you can. But I think the ranks of our muskie fishermen here in Ohio are growing. That's for sure. There's more interest in that fish. And here's the other thing, too. Big increases again last year in 20. I've not seen or heard this year yet, but license sales, fishing license and hunting both last year. But fishing always seems to be up, doesn't it? We always seem to get new people going to fishing. I think more people that retire when they think, what am I going to do? I don't think anybody doesn't put fishing out of the what am I going to do equation when they retire. They all put it in there, you know?
It's in mine.
Oh, I bet big time in yours. No question. We got a new stalker that we're playing around with. It's been a while up in Hoover, but What about the blue cat? What do you think here in Ohio with the blue cat?
Where we've stocked them, particularly in Hoover, we've had tremendous results. They grow fast.
Yep.
And they're big. And we're really just at the sort of the breakout stage of this program. Both Hoover and Seneca, and shortly here Caesars Creek, going to see some really nice fish. Clendenning, we're still doing evaluations. They haven't taken off like we thought they would. Clendenning is also a hard lake for us to sample. So we're still waiting to see if they start recruiting into the fishery like they did at Hoover.
I'll tell you what, just like I think CJ is going to be a good one for the muskie, I think your choice of putting that blue cat in Caesar is a good pick, too. I think that lake sets up pretty nice for the blue cat, you know? I think that's going to really be a nice blue cat fishery. Let me ask you this. I think our blue cat record here in Ohio, isn't it about 100 pounds coming out of the Ohio River? Somewhere in there? Do you think these reservoir blues can grow to that size?
Oh, boy, they're going to have to be really old to be able to do that.
I would think.
Certainly we should be able to get them out into the 50s, I would think.
You think you can do 50s with them?
Yeah.
I don't think you have any problem. The food source for these fish is not going to be a problem at all in any of these places. Do you think? I mean, Caesars has got a great forage fish base over there. I'm not as familiar with Hoover's, but I'm assuming it's got a pretty good well, there you go. So, you know, the food side wouldn't be a problem with it. Can they stunt themselves, though? What I mean by that, I mean, can they get to the point where with the number of them, it's going to stunt the growth of the herd, if you will?
It could potentially. So the way we've modeled this program is we stock the first 5 years, and then if things look like they're doing well, we're seeing good recruitment, we're seeing good growth rates, then we go to an alternate year stock.
Okay. This is another thing, too. Now, there's a slot now on the blues up at Hoover, isn't there?
Yes.
And to me...
Bad limit.
To me, when you do that, that shows that it's managed for a trophy blue cat fishery. That's the idea for sure. But with that, that shows to me that program is really about where you guys want it, or maybe ahead of where you think it should be at this point up there at Hoover. You think that would be a fair thing to say about that blue cat there?
That's a fair assessment. We didn't expect to see breakout big fish as quick as we did. But from what we've seen, at least the last year or two, are some pretty large fish for Hoover. So, yeah, we're just going to ride that coattails and continue to monitor that fishery as it improves, and we continue to see hopefully even larger fish.
Have you heard, Kevin, feedback from people that fish? Thank you for putting this in your stocking program, this blue cat.
Oh yeah. Yeah, when we did our, we normally have for the different species, and we had a catfish summit, I think it was back in 2018, and, all of the anglers were really enthused about the program.
Well, this is their trophy fish, isn't it, the blue cat?
Yeah.
So I can imagine. There's no question that they're probably excited about it. There's another program for our listeners out there, another reason to come and enjoy the great fishing opportunities here in Ohio. I think if we ran down this list, and we're going to say that Steely's coming up here very shortly, but the list we've gone through, many reasons to come and enjoy some fantastic fishing here in Ohio. Run by, I might say, great divisional wildlife. You do know, Kevin, there's some divisions of wildlife around the country that the people that live in those individual states, we won't mention any, but the people that live in those individual states are not very happy at times with their divisions of wildlife. I think we got the best one in the country. I'll put ours up with Annie. great people, and we got good programs, and we see it. The proof's in the pudding, as they say. Great fishing and great hunting opportunities too. Turkey, deer, waterfowl, whatever the case may be. To me, I think this next fish I want to mention to you, to me, I think it's the greatest stocking fish ever invented, and that's the sawdog. He can live anywhere, he can survive, and he grows nice, doesn't he?
Yeah, he does. And they really provide a diverse fishing opportunity, not only offshore like walleye typically provide, but we're also seeing how well they can provide a nearshore fishery in shallow water, particularly in the spring, before water temperatures get too hot. You can fish in really skinny water, 3-4 feet, and be catching size saugeye.
Absolutely. Great table fare too, we might add. There's no question about that. You like walleye, you'll like saugeye. And so it's fun fish to catch, fun fish to fish for. I think there's another fish that I think that people are learning, just like the muskie. You got people new coming to that muskie sport. I think you've got people now coming to the saugeye. They're learning more about it. They catch one maybe on a bass trip in the spring, and they say, well, what's this? And they learn a little bit about that. And I think we get a saugeye fisherman into the rank when that happens for sure. But they're a good bite again, too, in the fall, aren't they? They can be a real great fall bite.
Yeah, they can. And even all the way up through ice fishing season. Certainly they can provide ample opportunities during the cooler weather.
No, there's no question. And they've taken over, Marty, we've often talked about when they had some ice to fish on up at Indian, they've taken over as the number one targeted fish for ice people. They love going up there now for saugeye. It used to be crappie, and now that saugeye is what they're up there after through the ice. Yeah,
and we're seeing other reservoirs take off too, like buckeye. And those two, buckeye and Indian, sort of seem to be leading the way. And we've got Caesar Creek and Alum Creek that are providing fisheries as well.
Do you think that buckeye and Indian both are canal lakes? Is there anything to the success of the saugeye in these canal lakes? They seem to thrive in these canal lakes.
It could be. Certainly, it's getting the survival at the young age when we stock them, and then once they get to their first fall, being able to key in on things like gizzard shad really goes a long way to putting some length and some weight on.
They grow pretty nice, don't they?
They really do.
And
better than the walleye we've seen in those systems in the past.
Yeah, and with our, I wanted to ask you too, when we were talking about the muskie getting the eggs from Leesville, that's where we get all of our eggs for the entire state is from Leesville?
For the muskie program, yes.
Yep, perfect. And that's been going on from there for ever since we had the program, I assume then, huh?
It has. We also have been using Kentucky as a source for some of our muskie eggs, but we did not do that this year or last year with COVID. Last year we resorted to getting some muskie eggs, or actually some muskie fish from Pennsylvania, from their line.
Interesting. Cave Run when you get from Kentucky?
What was that?
Was it the Cave Run muskie eggs from Kentucky?
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah, that's pretty good. Cave Run's got a pretty good muskie fishery. As Green River does down there too. It's not bad. Well, my friend, we got to mention the steely and the steelhead. We've all, I can't say all of a sudden because it's been a while now, but we are the world-class number one steelhead fishery in the world right here in Ohio.
Yeah, we've got a tremendous program that provides fishing opportunities on our breakwalls and harbors, and then on up into our stocked streams and some of the neighboring streams as well, from October all the way through May. And then this time of year, those fish go out into the open waters of the lake, and folks that trolling out there for walleye or specifically for steelhead can hook up with some steelies out there in the open waters of Lake Erie.
Did you, and Kevin, you've been with Division a while, did you envision this steelhead program being what it is today, the success it is?
It was our target. Back when I started with the division in 1986, and that's quite a while ago. Myself and my supervisor, Phil Hillman, designed for the program with this in mind, that we would have a successful program providing, multiple opportunities in multiple streams. And I've been able to do research in both out on the lake side and river side, as well as the hatchery side, to know what works best and what we can sort of set for targets for the fishery. Mm-hmm. And I think we've met those. Certainly there have been some hurdles along the way with, some years our neighboring states haven't been able to provide us eggs. We've had to deal with the sea lamprey problem out in Lake Erie, and that's starting to come back under control again, knock on wood. If we continue to get sea lamprey control out of the folks at the Fish and Wildlife Service and the Great Lakes Fishery Commission, I think that's really going to help us, reach our goals for this fishery. And we've been working with the other agencies along the North Coast here, Pennsylvania, New York, Michigan, Ontario, to trade information and, provide the best path for success for our fishery by not overstocking, making sure that we've got a solid forage base out there to sustain not only steelhead but walleye and the other native fish in Lake Erie, mm-hmm. and then making sure we've got adequate sea lamprey control to keep those populations healthy and the sea lamprey population low so that they're not impinging upon steelhead and our native fish.
And plenty of public access too for people with these fish are in the tributaries in the fall and in the spring to get an opportunity to fish for them too. Is there?
Yeah, we've been fortunate to work with our partners here with county and city and metro parks, different agencies that can provide access. We can provide fisheries and guidance as to what kind of access is needed. And in some places we've purchased access or helped secure access. And having the public access is very important because if you're going to, stock a fish and provide a fishery, you want places for people to spread out and be able to fish for them.
Absolutely. And as far as at public places, they can go to the Division website, and they've got publications available for people too. They'll show all the public hunting and fishing opportunities here in the state. That's a good way to get info to plan a steely trip for sure, is to go there to start with where we can go and catch them publicly and not worry about being on somebody's property.
That's right. We've provided maps online, and if you can't find them or have trouble finding them, certainly you can send us mail or email, and we'll get those maps out to you. We're in the process of trying to update those because mm-hmm. we've got new accesses over the course of the last couple of years that were not included on those. Certainly the website itself has a searchable map that you find these access points on. If you go to the department's website, which is ohiodnr.gov, and then drill into that and get to the Division of Wildlife sites and find our searchable maps. Certainly, they're available to you, right there online.
Perfect.
You can save them, print them out, use them on your phone, just a number of different ways to access that. One of the other things we've recently is within the last month, we've added a stocking database on our website. So if you go to data.ohio.gov and look for fish stocking records, you can find our stocking records from 1970 to present.
Oh, wow.
All across the state of Ohio.
That was that program you were mentioning to me that was coming out new. That's pretty neat. My goodness.
Yeah, we just rolled it out. Lieutenant Governor had a news release just a couple weeks ago promoting this, and it was something that he found near and dear to his heart, and our folks at Innovate Ohio did a really great job with that. So we've got it promoted on our website, but if you go to the Innovate Ohio's website at data.ohio.gov and search fish stocking records, it'll actually show a map and those stocking records.
That's interesting. That's really interesting for sure. No question about that. We got to mention too, real quick, and we'll just mention the fact that we throughout the state we stock rainbow trout every year in the spring for people to enjoy. Do we raise all our own rainbows now?
Those rainbows are coming from eggs that we obtain from the Fish and Wildlife Service federal hatcheries, and then we grow them out at a couple of our hatcheries up to catchable size.
And we do some brown trout, I know, in the Mad. Do we put your brown trout anywhere else?
The Mad and the upper Clear Fork of the Mohican.
And there's another... Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was going to say, the Mad just got refreshing stocking of about 4,000 fish here within the last few weeks. So
there's another... That's another popular fishery, Kevin, is the Mad River.
Yeah, the Mad and the upper fork will be getting more brown trout this fall.
Well, that's another good growing fish. I mean, the brown's a hardy fish, and he grows pretty nice too, doesn't he?
Yep.
Now, you guys think you're going to be open at all again to visits for people to come and take a look at the hatchery? Do you think that'll happen?
It'll happen. We expect sometime later this summer to open our gates again. We'll probably do open houses if conditions allow us next spring.
Well, that's something for people to look forward to, because I mentioned we do the columns for the Cox newspapers, the outdoor columns for them, and I had mentioned in one of those to look for what we just talked about. That's your new stocking program. And also mentioned to watch for visits to maybe open up again at the hatchery, for the simple reason, if you like the fish, it would be a fun trip, I think, for people to go and take a look at our hatcheries here in Ohio, wouldn't it?
Sure. We've got, ample opportunities to see fish ponds and fish being raised. Probably not so much of eggs during the summer and fall season. That's something you would normally see in the spring and early summer. But you can go out there and bird watch. We've got archery ranges at St. Mary's and Hebron, and there are controlled hunt opportunities at some of our hatcheries as well. The time period for signing up for controlled hunting is coming up soon, so keep an eye on the website for that.
87,000 people last year, Kevin, signed up for the controlled hunts here in Ohio. Most ever, 87,000 people. Pretty neat, huh?
Yeah, it is. And then, of course, we always have our controlled fishing at Castelia on Cold Creek.
Yep.
And took a little bit of a wrinkle last year with the COVID, but we're going full steam this year, and our events are ongoing. Keep an eye out, too, because we've got fly fishing classes, and we'll be promoting a sign-up for those as well.
That'll be fun. That'll be neat. And people, I'll tell you what, they think that fly fishing is such a thing to learn. It's really a great thing. It's easy to learn. And it's a really, this time of year is perfect right now. You get insect activity on the surface of water, where it's at, any kind of dry fly, you don't have to match the hatch, as they say. Guarantee you that every time you throw that little dry fly out there, you're going to get a fish hitting on it, aren't you?
Yeah, and some of the patterns are as simple as an ant or some cricket that just looks like the real thing, and you're going to get bluegill and bass and sunfish to galore hitting those things. And if you're in a stream, you're going to get smallies and rock bass, and there's ample opportunities to try something new if this hasn't been one of your typical methods to fish. And like you said, it really doesn't take a lot of new knowledge or new effort to try this out.
I think you're a fly fisherman is the way it sounds, aren't you?
Yes, I am.
I love it. It's a great way. It's a fun way to fish, no question about it. Absolutely fun way to fish, for sure. And boy, I tell you what, there's one, just like a waterfowl. There's no in-between a waterfowl hunter. You either are one or you are one. And this is the same way with fly fishing to me, I think. And once you get into it and you're interested in it, I mean, you're really hooked on it, aren't you?
Yeah, and there's just, for every bit of spin fishing and spin casting opportunities, the fly fishing opportunities are almost the same, except for maybe some of the deep water trolling. But it could be anything from a pond to near shore Lake Erie and harbors.
Just had a friend, Brian Hunter always does he's a guy down in Okeechobee. He just, I don't know if he's back yet or not, but they took off on a tarpon fishing trip on the fly down in Florida. How about fly fishing for tarpon? Sound good?
Sure does.
Yeah, absolutely.
No find around here, but boy, you can run into some big fish on the fly, certainly in our steelhead streams.
Oh, there's no question. It's a great way to fish for them, too. And people that fly fish, they like catching those big sheephead and big fish like that, too, and carp.
That's right. They can strip you out real quick.
You're in the backing pretty fast there, aren't you?
Yep.
Well, my friend, we got to say to you, too, you're getting ready to retire, too, aren't you?
I am. Probably about the end of August, 1st of September.
So you'll be going to full-time fishing. I'm assuming, do you hunt too?
I do not.
Well, maybe you'll pick up a new sport.
Yeah, I spend my time in the fall chasing steelhead.
Well, I can imagine that. You had a good leader too with that 12 bite with Phil. He's probably fishing every day now, I would think. But anyway, have the best of retirement that anyone can have, my friend. We certainly appreciate having you over the years on the show, and you've been on with us quite a bit. This is 17 years doing radio with us. Well, it's 27 years total, but 17 of them here in the Dayton, Ohio area. So you've been on with us on a lot of them, that's for sure, and we greatly appreciate it.
I enjoyed every bit of it.
Thank you, sir. Hey, have a good time. And don't be a stranger. You can always call me up, and we'll gladly put you on here and talk about one of your steely trips. We'd love to hear that. People love to hear it, so you're always welcome.
Sounds good, Jerry.
Thanks, Kevin. Have a good 4th of July, too, my friend.
Thanks. You too.
Thank you, sir. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
There you go, Kevin Kale, Hatcheries Administrator for the great state of Ohio. Another one getting ready to retire. We're losing all of our guys, Sydney. They're all retiring on us. My gosh. Marty just retired, Marty Lundquist. Kevin's getting ready to retire, too.
Yeah.
Well, you put in the years, and that's what happens. And we've got other ones that are going to be going and retiring on us, too, here probably before the year's out. But it is what it is. How about a little quick NBA update? You got anything to report?
Absolutely, I do.
There you go.
Now, jumping back into some sports, we actually have an update for the Hawks game here. Right now, they're in the second quarter. 3 minutes and 46 seconds to be exact. And the Hawks have been down since the beginning of the first, but they're fighting. Right now, the score is 43-54. Milwaukee Bucks up. And that is about it for Fishin' and Huntin' Sports. Studio producer Sid Davis. And it's back to you, Mr. Cripp.
Well, we'll come back. We'll do a quick wrap-up one. We want to thank, again, Kevin Kale for being on the show with us this evening. We enjoyed that, giving you an idea of where we put those 46 million fish here that we grow in Ohio every year. Fantastic number, but we've got a great stocking program. Goes through a number of different species of fish that we stock for here in Ohio also. If you've not fished Ohio, excuse me, by all means, you want to put that on your list of to-dos. And pick a species. You're going to have a great time doing it here in the state of Ohio. 4th of July weekend coming up. Get out and enjoy it. It's going to be a really bang-bang, I think, 4th of July. I probably saved up a lot of the fireworks that they didn't get to put off from last year because of we were really into the COVID deal last year at this point in time. So we hope all's well out there with all of you. We hope, take care, because we're nowhere near done with COVID. Don't ever think we are, because we're not. So take care. Get out and enjoy the 4th of July weekend. Do it safely and enjoy it. And until next Thursday, we'll be back next Thursday. Jared Wickland will be with us from Pheasants Forever. And we'll be getting that springtime, summertime update on Pheasants Forever and what's going on with our pheasant quail here in the USA. Until then, we'll see you next week. So long.